Welcome back to Motivation Library. Today we'll be tumbling down the rabbit hole, so to speak. We're diving deep into Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
This book, it's captivated readers for generations, and we're going to try and uncover why it's so much more than just, a simple children's story.
Yeah, and we've got quite a journey ahead of us, I think. Her fall down the rabbit hole is only just the beginning. It's the beginning of all these encounters with these really peculiar characters and these situations that just, challenge our sense of logic. They really make us question what's real and what's imagined.
Right, and we'll be exploring the deeper layers of the story, uncovering the symbolism, the satire, all the thought-provoking themes. I mean, that's really what makes Alice's Adventures in Wonderland a timeless classic.
So Alice, she's bored. She's bored by the riverbank with her sister.
Right.
And then along comes this white rabbit.
Frantically checking his pocket watch.
Right. He's muttering about being late.
That's Alice's cue to just plunge headfirst into this world of absurdity.
Wow.
She doesn't even hesitate.
And that impulsiveness, I mean, that's got to be something that a lot of our listeners can relate to, right?
Yay!
Just that desire to see where the unexpected might lead. She's not even worried about falling down this hole. In fact, she's thinking about how brave everyone will think she is for doing it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how Carol describes her fall. It's like a slow descent.
Yeah.
It gives her time to observe the strange objects around her. Like that jar of orange marmalade. I don't know. Maybe he's easing us into the topsy-turvy logic of Wonderland with that. What do you think?
Perhaps. Yeah.
And then there are these constant, size changes that Alice experiences throughout the story.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like she's always trying to find her footing. She's trying to adapt to this constantly shifting environment. What do you think Carol is trying to say with that?
You know, on one level, it definitely reflects the awkwardness of growing up. Like those times when you feel too big for your britches one minute,
Right.
and then too small and insignificant the next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it could also be about the fluidity of identity itself.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, we're not always the same person in every situation, are we? And Alice's transformations, they really make us question the very notion of who we are.
Right.
I mean, there's that chaotic scene, remember, where she's swimming in this pool of her own tears.
Right.
She's surrounded by these other creatures that have also tumbled down the rabbit hole. It's absurd, right? But there's also this sense of shared experience, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And even in the midst of the chaos, you see Alice, she's trying to make sense of things.
Right.
She's trying to have this conversation with the mouse, but they're just talking past each other.
Right.
He's terrified of cats.
Oh.
While Alice just innocently thinks that her cat Dinah would be friends with him. It highlights how our own experiences, how they shape our perspective.
So strongly.
So strongly, yes.
And that clash of perspectives is a recurring theme, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
I mean, it makes me think about how important it is to be open to understanding where others are coming from, even if their views seem totally illogical to us.
Exactly.
And then there's the caucus race, right? Everyone running around in this circle, getting soaking wet.
Yeah.
No clear winner at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems pointless. But I wonder if Carol is maybe satirizing something here. What do you think?
It does feel like a commentary on those situations in life where,
Yeah.
Maybe even political processes where there's a lot of activity, but no real progress. It's all just for show, no substance.
Yeah. No substance at all.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Carroll was, he was known for his wit and his social commentary. So it makes sense that he'd use something as seemingly nonsensical as a caucus race to kind of make a deeper point.
Definitely.
So next we see Alice in the White Rabbit's house, and she's starting to question her own identity. She's trying to remember things that she knows, like multiplication tables, but even those seem distorted.
Yeah.
It's like she's losing her grip on reality. It's interesting that she even recites this creepy poem, about a crocodile with gently smiling jaws. Not exactly your typical children's rhyme.
No, it's a little unsettling, but it also points to how the familiar, how it can become strange when we're in unfamiliar territory.
Right.
It makes me think about those times in life when we have to reevaluate our beliefs and assumptions.
And of course, she drinks another potion, and she finds herself growing too large for the house. I mean, that's a striking visual.
Oh, it is.
This little girl suddenly perceived as this monstrous threat simply because she doesn't fit in. What do you think? Do you think Carol's making a statement about societal expectations here and how we judge, those who are different?
I think that's a really interesting interpretation. I mean, it makes me think about how important it is to challenge our own biases and assumptions.
Yeah, and the way that she escapes is pretty clever. She uses a cake to shrink herself down,
Right.
and she manages to slip out.
Yeah, she's learning to navigate this chaotic world, even if it means embracing the illogical.
But she's not out of the woods yet.
No, she's not.
She comes face to face with this giant puppy. And it's interesting how her perception of size just keeps shifting. She's been gigantic, she's been tiny. And now she's faced with this creature that's so much bigger than her usual self. It's like Carol's reminding us that size is relative. It also highlights the fear of the unknown, I think. I mean, she's intimidated by the puppy's size, but she also tries to be kind. She offers it a stick to play with.
She does. Yeah.
Speaking of the unknown, her next encounter is with the caterpillar.
The caterpillar. Yep.
Perched on a mushroom, smoking a hookah. I mean, he's not exactly the most helpful character, is he?
Well, he riddles Alice with questions, doesn't he? He challenges her to define herself. Who are you? He asks.
Right. Seems simple enough,
Yeah.
but she struggles to answer.
She does. I think he represents that voice of doubt, that questioning of identity that that we all face at some point.
She tries to explain how confusing it is to be constantly changing size and forgetting things. And the caterpillar simply replies, I don't know, that's not exactly comforting.
No, not at all. But it forces Alice to confront her own sense of self. It's like he's saying, you have to figure this out for yourself.
And it's interesting that she tries to recite the Father William poem, but she gets it all mixed up. It's another example of the familiar becoming strange.
You're right.
It makes me think about how our memories and how our experiences are constantly being shaped and reshaped. So then we have the caterpillar's advice about the magic mushroom.
Right.
One side will make her grow taller, the other will make her shrink, but he doesn't tell her which is which.
No.
It's like he's saying that even when we receive advice or guidance, we ultimately have to make our own choices and deal with the consequences. And the consequences in this case, pretty extreme.
They are. Yeah.
I mean, her head ends up towering above the trees, while her body shrinks to almost nothing.
Right.
And then she encounters a pigeon, accuses her of being a serpent.
Another case of miscommunication.
Right.
Another clash of perspectives. It makes me think about how easy it is for our intentions to be misunderstood, especially when we're dealing with someone who has a completely different worldview.
So she finally manages to regulate her size using the mushroom, and she arrives at the Duchess's house.
Yeah.
Remember her?
Oh, yes, the Duchess.
The one with the pepper obsession and that rather unconventional approach to parenting.
Yeah, and her house is just as chaotic as you'd expect.
There's howling and sneezing, crashing coming from inside. It's like sensory overload. But Alice, being Alice, opens the door and she enters.
And she's greeted by this scene of pure pandemonium.
Yeah. The cook's throwing utensils. The Duchess is singing this lullaby to her sneezing baby, and the kitchen is just filled with smoke. It's madness.
Pure madness. Yeah.
And amidst all this chaos, the Duchess, she just drops this little nugget of wisdom. She says, if everybody minded their own business, the world would go round a deal faster than it does.
It's a cynical view, but it makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the complexities of social interactions and how we often get in each other's way.
Right. And Alice, she points out that, faster spinning Earth would mess up day and night.
Right.
So there's this constant clash between logic and nonsense.
Exactly.
And then to top it all off, the Duchess, she just casually mentions that the Cheshire cat grins because it's a Cheshire cat.
Right.
As if that explains everything.
As if that explains anything.
Yeah.
Another example of Carroll's delight in circular logic.
Right. He offers this explanation that's really no explanation at all.
Right.
And it just adds to the absurdity of the whole situation.
Absolutely.
But it's not all fun and games. There's a moment of real tension.
Yeah.
When the cook starts hurling things at the Duchess and the baby. It's unsettling. It makes you question the Duchess's true nature.
It does, yeah. And then she leaves as abruptly as she arrived,
Right.
leaving Alice with a rather unusual parting gift for baby.
Which turns out to be a pig.
A pig.
It's another transformation.
Yeah.
But this time it feels symbolic. What do you think Carol's trying to say with this?
It could be about the unexpected burdens, that we're sometimes given in life. The things that we think will be one way, they turn out to be something else entirely.
And speaking of unexpected, the Cheshire cat, he reappears.
Yeah.
Offering Alice more cryptic advice. He tells her to visit either the Mad Hatter or the March Hare. Warns her that they're both mad.
It's a classic double bind. Two unappealing options, both leading to madness. It's like there's no escaping the absurdity of this world.
And Alice, being Alice, decides to visit the March Hare.
Mm-hmm.
It's that mix of, bravery and naivete that makes her such a compelling character.
Definitely.
And with that decision, she enters another layer of Wonderland's bizarre reality. The Mad Tea Party.
The Mad Tea Party.
So we left off with Alice heading towards the March Hare's house, and I'm really curious what happens at this Mad Tea Party.
Well, she gets there, and right away they tell her there's no room.
Oh no!
Even though the table's practically empty.
The classic Wonderland logic.
Exactly. It's another one of those nonsensical social conventions. The ones that they make absolutely no sense to Alice.
Right.
And probably not to us either.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Mad Hatter and the March Hare. I mean, they're constantly violating etiquette, right?
All right.
They offer Alice wine that isn't even there.
Yeah.
And then they start criticizing her hair.
And of course, there's the famous riddle: why is a raven like a writing desk?
Why is a raven like a writing desk?
But the real punchline is that neither the Mad Hatter nor the March Hare, they know the answer.
They don't know the answer.
No.
Makes you wonder if Carol was kind of poking fun at people who, try to sound clever but don't really have any substance to back it up.
Definitely. Yeah, and the whole tea party is just filled with this nonsensical conversation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they talk about time like it's a person.
Mm-hmm.
They argue about butter and bread knives, and they keep changing places at the table like for absolutely no reason.
So poor Alice. She's just trying to keep up.
Right.
And it's like every time she thinks she's grasped something, it just slips away.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me how this chaotic tea party, it could be seen as this reflection of Alice's own inner turmoil.
Oh, how so?
Well, she's experiencing this whirlwind of physical and emotional changes, right?
Yeah.
And the tea party, it's like an external representation, of that confusion.
I see what you mean, yeah. And then there's the Mad Hatter. I mean, he's obsessed with time. He keeps saying it's always 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like he's stuck, like he can't move forward.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if that's maybe a metaphor for feeling trapped in a particular stage of life.
Right. Or it could represent those anxieties that we face as adults, always feeling bound by schedules and obligations, unable to escape the constant pressure of time.
Yeah. In the middle of all this chaos, they actually ask Alice to tell a story.
Uh-huh.
But she admits that she doesn't know any.
She doesn't know any.
Yeah.
Right. So the spotlight falls on the Dormouse, who tells this strange tale about three sisters. They live at the bottom of a well.
Wow.
And they eat treacle. And they're learning to draw, but they're drawing things like, a muchness.
A muchness.
Yeah. Again, it's that blend of the mundane and the fantastical.
Right.
Learning to draw, it's an ordinary activity, but the treacle well and the muchness, it just makes it utterly absurd.
It's like the dormouse's tail. It mirrors the overall atmosphere of Wonderland.
Yeah.
Right, all these familiar elements, but they're presented in this distorted, this illogical way.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like Carol's asking us to question our perception of what's normal, what we think is normal.
Right. So Alice, she eventually just gets fed up with this tea party.
Yeah,
And she leaves.
she does.
I mean, she realizes that trying to reason with the Mad Hatter and the March Hare is pointless.
It is, yeah.
Right. She's starting to realize that sometimes you just have to, you have to accept the absurdity and just move on.
And she literally moves on to one of the most visually striking scenes in the whole book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Queen's croquet ground.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
Oh yeah, the croquet ground. It's pure Wonderland craziness. Instead of mallets and balls, they're using flamingos and hedgehogs.
Wow.
The arches. They're soldiers who keep walking away. And the queen's a force of nature.
That's putting it lightly. I mean, she's notorious for her temper tantrums and her love of ordering executions for the slightest offenses.
It's this brilliant satire of the arbitrary nature of power and how those in authority can just impose their will, without logic or reason.
So Alice tries to play this game, but it's just utter chaos.
It is.
I mean, the hedgehogs keep running off. She can barely even manage her flamingo mallet, and the queen just keeps shouting, off with their heads.
Off with their heads. It's a scene that's both hilarious and frightening at the same time.
Yeah.
The queen's unhinged behavior and the absurdity of the game, it creates this constant sense of unease.
And of course the Cheshire cat.
Oh yes.
He reappears, grinning as always. I mean, his presence is always so intriguing. It's like he's this detached observer. He's offering Alice these little bits of cryptic commentary, but he's never really getting involved.
So
he asks Alice how she likes the queen, and then he just vanishes, leaving her to deal with the fallout.
Which isn't good, because the king, he decides he wants the Cheshire cat gone.
Oh.
And the queen's solution:
Let me guess.
off with his head.
Of course. Off with his head.
It's ridiculous that she would order the execution of a creature that doesn't even have a body.
It's Wonderland. I mean, what can you say?
Exactly. So Alice she's introduced to the Mock Turtle and the Griffin, two characters who are almost as strange as the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, I'm curious about the Mock Turtle. What's his story?
Well, he tells Alice this sad tale about how he was once a real turtle, and there's this real sense of melancholy there. Like, he represents that loss of innocence, the yearning for a past that can never be regained.
That's quite poignant. What about his education? I mean, he mentioned some pretty unusual subjects.
Oh yes, his education included things like reeling and writhing.
Reeling and writhing.
Ambition, distraction, uglification, and derision.
Wow.
And even fainting in coils.
Fainting in coils. What is that?
Well, it's clearly a parody of the rigid and often nonsensical Victorian education system.
Right. Carroll was definitely poking fun at the way knowledge was imparted during his time.
I mean, the emphasis on rote memorization and pointless subjects, it's something that still resonates today, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
And then there's the lobster quadrille.
The lobster quadrille.
A dance that's as ridiculous as it sounds. What happens?
Well, the Mock Turtle, he tried to teach Alice the steps, but it just devolves into this chaotic mess.
Of course.
Of nonsensical instructions, absurd imagery.
It sounds like pure Carroll at his best.
It really is.
Yeah.
But just as Alice is getting into the swing of things, someone shouts, "The trial's beginning!"
Oh no!
And off she goes to witness another spectacle of Wonderland justice.
So the trial scene, I mean, that's probably the most famous part of the book, wouldn't you say?
It's definitely one of the most memorable. We have the king and queen. They're presiding. There's a jury of bewildered animals.
Right. And the Knave of Hearts, he's accused of stealing the queen's tarts.
Oh.
It's a brilliant satire of the legal system.
Right.
Showing how justice can be can be completely arbitrary and illogical.
Yeah, the evidence is absurd. The witnesses are totally unreliable.
Totally.
And the king and queen, I mean, they're more concerned with their own power than with finding the truth.
Absolutely, yeah. So Alice is watching in disbelief as the trial unfolds.
Right.
The Mad Hatter, he's called to the stand, but his testimony is just this jumble of tea party memories.
Makes sense.
The cook disappears in a cloud of pepper.
Oh no.
And then Alice is called as a witness.
Oh wow. So this is where we see Alice really starting to come into her own, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. She's no longer the passive observer. She's starting to question authority and challenge the absurdity of the whole situation.
Yeah.
She refuses to be intimidated by the queen's threats.
Good for her.
She declares that she's not a mile high and that the king's rules are stupid things.
That's a powerful moment of defiance. She's rejecting the nonsensical logic that governs Wonderland.
And that defiance, it leads to her awakening.
Oh.
When the queen orders her head chopped off, Alice finally snaps. She shouts, "You're nothing but a pack of cards." And with that, the whole charade collapses.
Oh, so we're back to reality.
Back to reality. Alice wakes up from her dream. She's safe and sound in her sister's lap.
So it's like she's emerged from this fantastical journey, and she's transformed.
Yes.
Having learned all these valuable lessons about identity, power, the importance of questioning the world around her.
It's a satisfying ending to a truly extraordinary story.
It is.
And it leaves us with a lot to think about. What did Alice's adventures in Wonderland teach her, and what can they teach us about navigating, the complexities of our own lives?
So Alice, she's back in the real world now.
Yeah.
Back from that wild journey through Wonderland. What are your thoughts on her awakening?
It's interesting how even though the dream is over now, the impact of her adventure, it really lingers.
Yeah.
It's like the seed of questioning, of curiosity has been planted inside of her.
Right. Do you think Carroll was maybe suggesting that even when we return to to the familiar, we're forever changed by our experiences, even if they seemed nonsensical at the time.
I think that's a really insightful observation. It's like those experiences, those journeys into the unknown. They leave a mark. They leave an indelible mark on who we are.
I'm also intrigued by the role of Alice's sister in the ending. I mean, she listens patiently, right, as Alice recounts this crazy dream.
She does.
But she doesn't dismiss it as, childish. She recognizes its significance.
Exactly. It's like she understands the value of those imaginative journeys, the way they can teach us things about ourselves, about the world, things that we wouldn't discover otherwise.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if Alice's sister is also maybe subtly changed by hearing about this adventure. Maybe opens up her imagination a little bit too.
I like that idea. And there's that beautiful image at the end of Alice's sister. She's imagining Alice as a grown woman, but still carrying that childlike wonder.
Right.
Sharing these fantastical tales with future generations.
It's really a testament to the power of storytelling, isn't it?
Right.
The way it can, connect us across generations and keep those sparks of imagination alive.
It really is. And it suggests that a part of Alice will always remain in Wonderland. And perhaps a part of Wonderland will always remain in her, shaping her perspective, influencing her interactions with the world.
And that brings us to what I find so captivating about Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
Yeah.
It defies categorization, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a children's book.
Yeah.
But it's also so much more than that. I mean, there are layers of philosophical reflection,
Right.
social satire, psychological exploration. I mean, it's all woven into the narrative.
It's a book that can be, enjoyed on so many levels, and it seems to offer something new, with every reading.
Exactly. And that's its enduring power. It invites us to embrace the absurd, to question assumptions, and to find meaning in the seemingly nonsensical.
Yeah, it reminds us that the world is full of wonder and possibility, even if it doesn't always make sense.
I do.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
So as we conclude our deep dive into Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, we leave you with this. What rabbit holes are you curious about? What nonsense might hold some unexpected truths for you?
Don't be afraid to explore the unknown.
Right.
To question the familiar, and to embrace the power of your own imagination.
Thanks for joining us on Motivation Library. Until next time, keep those pages turning and those minds exploring.